right, everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast. Thanks for tuning back in. Today, I'm talking about a gauntlet trip I took over the weekend to Nashville, Tennessee.
This is the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast, where we interview conservationists, hunters, anglers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the greatest stories, information, and advice from the best in the world.
So, as anybody who listens to this podcast knows, take my fly rod everywhere I go. Of course, it's a given. I've found it to be the easiest way to travel and fish, especially gauntlet stuff. You don't have a lot of time. Easy setup, easy tear down, easy to just screw around and get in the water. No different going to Nashville. My cousin turned 21. She wanted to do the Nashville thing. Listen, I partied a lot when I was younger. I'm good. I went out, had a little fun. I was mostly focused on trying to fish. So something I learned about Nashville, they got pretty affordable licenses down there in Tennessee. Got a lot of different fishing licenses. There's a whole laundry list of stuff. You have to buy a special license for trout. You have to buy a special license if you don't want to fish for trout. Whole bunch of options. So that was fun to navigate through, but every state you go to is going to be different. Ohio's pretty simple. Don't have really we have a fishing license and that's it. So that's pretty cool. And I met my good friend Chester Moore down there, who was just recently on the podcast for the 1,000th time. We were just in Colorado fly fishing. He happened to be in Tennessee, Nashville area, the same exact weekend that I was there. So I got up really early, like 5:30 something. Drove out, met him at the state park outside of Nashville, Montgomery Bell State Park, I believe. We met up, we fly fished for a little bit. Super tough conditions. I caught one bluegill. He caught one before I got there. My wife caught one. My brother didn't catch any. So there's this cold front that kind of came through that period we were there. It was really tough. So it was fun to meet up though and see him. And we were trying to catch some bass and some bluegill. Just sometimes the fishing conditions are rough and they just were not eating. I tried everything. I tried fishing on the top. I tried fishing down deep. I tried fishing in the middle. I tried putting multiple flies on at the same time to hit all the different depths. Fished shallow, fished deep, fished everything in between. They just weren't having it. They're only got a handful of strikes for the whole day, or the whole hour and a half we were there in general. So still good to get out and fly fish a little bit. And that was a pretty fun morning. There was some conference going on there he was presenting at. Didn't stay for that. Had too much stuff to do with the family. Ran back. Next day, we woke up and we had booked a charter fishing trip on Percy Priest Reservoir out there. I think it's a reservoir. I'm guessing it's a reservoir. And it was for striper, which I'd never caught before. And that was pretty interesting. We only had a little bit of time, so we only did the 2-hour charter, 2.5-hour charter, which, I mean, really is not that much time. Basically, by the time you get out there, you're getting an hour to fish. Getting there and back, so you have a half hour traveling across this huge lake. That's one of my first experiences fishing in like a true large reservoir where you actually have to have a decent sized boat to get around. I fished the reservoirs around my house, but you could walk around the whole reservoir in 5 minutes. They're not big reservoirs, so
wake up early before the sun comes up. Then you drink a little coffee, fire the gator tail up, then you hit it on out where no man goes.
this is my first experience fishing like that. We started out with trolling deep for the big stripers, and they just weren't biting. I think that cold front completely shut them off. Like I watched the rods for almost an hour just on the back of the boat trolling, and I saw one fish take a swipe at one rod, or it could have just hit something on the bottom. I'm not really sure, but there's just nothing going on. So it was basically like taking an hour-long boat ride And we wanted to catch the big ones. That's what we were trying to do. And eventually the captain was like, hey, let's kind of wrap it up. You know, we're not getting anything with this. So we switched to jigging off the bottom. We were using spoons, shiny metallic spoons, real heavy. We were dropping them down to the bottom. I think we were fishing close to like 30, 40 feet of water. And that was tough because the depth kept changing. We were kind of drifting along. You had one of those trolling motors that just kind of kept you pulling along a little bit, searching for schools of fish. And we did get into a few schools of them, but I don't know what my spoon kept hooking around my line. So I kept having to pull it up all the time, untangle it, drop it back down, and then just wasn't catching anything. And literally the last 5 to 10 minutes of the trip, we got into a school of them and they started biting a little bit. Caught probably, I think everybody caught about 2 fish, which was fun. I mean, it was cool to catch them. I had never caught a striper before. The one I caught was a hybrid, so it wasn't, I guess, a true striper, which I don't really care. Another fish added to the list. They are fun. They are kind of like a bass. The rods we were using were so big and heavy. They were like the big giant trolling rods or like deep sea ocean fishing rods almost. So the fight wasn't super tough and the fish weren't that massive. But I mean, the whole point is like you can easily have access to trips like that, especially when you have a lot of people. We took 6 people on the boat, so it was like barely $100 a person, maybe a little over after we tipped them. And it's like, this stuff's super accessible if you can get a group of people to go. I know people generally think guides are very expensive, and they can be, especially like deep sea and the ocean stuff. That stuff is really expensive. But some of the inland stuff is pretty affordable. And I mean, you're going out, your chances of catching fish are pretty high because that's their job. That's what they do every day is they take people out and guide them on fish. So I would highly recommend that. I didn't know anything about striper fishing. It was honestly, we're jigging for them. So it was basically to me like fishing for walleye out in Lake Erie. It was very similar. We're just sitting there jigging while we're moving around a little bit and they bite it. You reel them in. It was pretty fun, but it definitely was a new experience of fishing. I would say it was pretty similar. And it just got my family out fishing, which we fish together sometimes in the summer, but it's like not really. The lake we're on, I've said it a billion times, not the greatest fishing lake in the world. I mean, there's a lot of bluegill and stuff in there, but for bass fishing, it's kind of tough. And it's nice to get everybody out to try new experiences and to get them, excited about fishing. It's kind of something we do now everywhere we go. We usually get a charter for whoever wants to go, 6, 8, 10 people, whatever a boat can fit. Price goes down, everybody's catching fish, having a good time, and if, depending on where we're staying, we will take them back and eat them, which is cool to introduce, your family to wild caught food, which is not something that we usually ever do. We didn't do that when I was growing up. We didn't have deer or fish very often or anything. We'd have fish fries occasionally in the summer at the lake, but that was about it. So it's cool to have that interaction and get people excited and catching fish and just being outdoors instead of going out and just strictly doing the downtown Nashville thing, which, I really don't have a lot of interest in. I did it because I was there and that's what the family wanted to do, but also got to get them into experience what I love to do, which is fishing, hunting, stuff like that. So it never hurts. And especially if you're that person in the family, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, just encourage them. The good thing about going with a guide on something like that is they don't have to touch the fish. They don't have to touch the lures. They don't have to do anything. All they got to do is say, hey, I need help. The guide's there to help. Unless they're a bad guide, then sorry about your luck. But it really is a good introduction for people who aren't necessarily into the outdoors. It's low impact. They don't have to do that much. And it's just fun to watch them catch fish. That's like the best part. Like I was on the trolling rod, I was waiting for a fish to go on and I was just going to hand the rod to whoever was on the boat because I've caught a lot of fish and I don't necessarily need to catch fish to have a good time. Like I like watching other people have that joy. It's always cool to catch a big giant fish and hold it in your hands and stuff. But like, if I'm not keeping the fish, I don't really care that much, to be completely honest. So it is fun, and I encourage you to try that. And it's it's pretty easy. Worst case, they get a fun boat ride for a couple hours, and they can bring snacks, they can get drunk, whatever they want to do. And Nashville's not my gig. I like country music a lot. I do really do. And I like, that whole genre and all that stuff. I went to the Johnny Cash Museum. I have a Johnny Cash tattoo on my arm. I just always have loved Johnny Cash. It was cool to see that stuff, but like not hopping bar to bar and being around 10 billion people is just not my gig. So it was nice to kind of get to balance both because that's what everyone else enjoys. So it's cool. So take that into account. If you go somewhere, family trip, whatever, friend trip, always try and sneak in a little fishing charter or something. Bachelor parties, I've done it. People love it, especially dudes. Love going out there catching fish, even if they're not outdoorsy. It's just like a manly, thing to do. So just consider that. I've snuck a lot of people into the outdoors secretly through fishing charters. So don't ever underestimate that. I'm going to do a little bit of a shorter episode. I am working on some stuff right now. Got really far behind from traveling so much over the last couple of weeks. So I got a lot of stuff I need to get caught up on, but I didn't want to leave the podcast listeners hanging. I will be coming out with some new stuff I'm working on.
Hey, what's up, everyone? James Appleton here, co-founder of Absolute Aid. Welcome to the Seek to Do More program. This program will help you help yourself by developing the daily habits that will elevate your entire life. Over the next 30 days, you'll complete the doers list every single day. And the doers list includes 1, do something physical. 2, follow and stick to your diet of choice. 3, read a real book. 4, further your education on purpose. 5, dedicate time to your spiritual life. And 6, dedicate time to your hobbies. So if you're ready to take a structured, proven approach to build the daily habits that will allow you to get the most out of yourself, your time, and your life every single day, the Seek to Do More program is your blueprint. So make a choice, commit to yourself, sign up below, and let's get started.
Different formats for this podcast. That's why I haven't been doing as many guests lately. It's just really tedious to try and find and book guests all the time. So I'm just kind of talking through my own experiences, what I've been learning. I'm getting ready to go out hunting here soon. I haven't got to sit out in the woods yet, which is really frustrating, but that's due to a few reasons. Been traveling a lot. It's been really hot out until like the last couple of days. So I didn't really want to sit in the woods when it's 80 degrees out and go hunting. And also I have went through the process. I have been talking to Ranch Fairy, called him, worked through the whole arrow thing. I literally did not know anything about what I'm doing with a bow. As I told him on the phone, I said, dude, this is like way over my head right now. And I know it's simple, like in theory, but like I went and bought a bow because I wanted to bow hunt, and I just shot it and practiced. So I bought cheap arrows, cheap broadheads, and I just sat in my yard right outside this window here where I'm podcasting, and I shot until I could get accurate and tuned in, and I killed a deer. That's my experience with bow hunting. I'm not an arrow nerd. I'm not a bow nerd. I don't really understand the details of all of it. I'm learning. That just comes with the territory, but I don't have a lot of this technical ability. So he's an awesome dude. I know he seems a little rough around the edges on his YouTube channel and stuff, but he literally sat there and talked to me through the whole process on the phone. He didn't have to do that. He could have said, watch the video again, figure it out. Great dude. I spent the money, got the good arrows. I'm going to be out there. They should be to my house here any day. Broadheads, everything, heavy arrows. I'm going to test that out this season, and we'll be doing another podcast with him, talking through the average guy's hunting experience, because as I've said on my podcast with him in the past, the main goal that I have is lethality. And I'm in the Midwest here. I'm shooting 20, 30 yards most of the time. The main goal is lethality. If that means having the heaviest arrow that I can fit in my bow, then that's what I'm going to do, because tracking deer sucks, as he says many times on his channel. It's not my favorite activity. I mean, ideally you want them to drop within sight, and with this heavy arrow process, that's what I'm looking for. There's always a lot of arguing in the archery community. Hell, there's a lot of arguing in every community, because that's just what we like to do, I guess, as human beings. But I am excited to test out this new arrow method. I'm pretty much there. I did not want to step out in the woods until I had it figured out. I do not want to just maim deers because I didn't take the time to get my shit dialed in. So the arrow should be here soon. The full gig. Go out there, practice every day until I get them dialed in, adjust my bow, whatever I need to do. And then it is time to go sit out there. And then as I did a couple episodes, I will be using the saddle that I built last year. I actually helped a friend build one. He does a lot of filming for some series, Alex Petikoff. He's been on the podcast as well. I helped him build it for some of his video stuff to film, and he's pretty excited about that. So we'll have 2 people testing this setup, and I'm going to work through some of the kinks that I found last year, try and smooth those out a little bit, because I do, as I said, a lot. I like making my own stuff. I could easily just go out and buy a saddle. It is what it is. I just really wanted to make one because it's a very simple premise, and I felt really safe in it. So I'm going to keep using it. Maybe I'll upgrade someday. I did upgrade my steps, which I'm very excited about because they're much lighter and much more compact, and we'll go from there. So I hope to be out in the woods here, if not this week, next week, and I'm taking some time off from traveling here for a while because it's beating me up. So thank you all for listening. Kind of a rambling menagerie of nonsense today, but I appreciate all of you, and I'll be back soon with some other stuff that I've been working on. I filmed another documentary. There's 2 more documentaries over the last couple of weeks, and got a ton more stuff coming out, just shorter wildlife content, conservation content. So hope you guys are ready for that. Thanks for listening. Be back soon. Hey, thanks for listening to the Aptitude Outdoors Podcast. If you're getting anything out of this, if you're learning something, if it's helped you in any way, go down in the link below and buy me a coffee. Throw me $1, throw me $2. We greatly appreciate it. Just using it to keep this ship afloat. So thank you very much.